Thank you.
It doesn't have anything to do with
You guys ready?
stuff here.
Yeah, good boss.
Guys, we'll call this meeting to order and roll call.
Briggs,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Haig,
Yes.
Okay. First thing on our agenda is a presentation. Mr.
Yes, as we continue with our departmental updates, this evening we have the Parks and Recreation Department update, and that will be given by Chad Shoemaker.
Thank you, Bruce. Alrighty. Okay, there we go. So department staffing hasn't really changed a lot since the last time we've updated this. We are short essentially one full-time staff at this point. We got somebody hired today, and we had somebody resign today, so it was a wash at -1 at the end of the day. So we are down one full-time person. We may be down a seasonal part-time also. We were at 2 of 3, so if that happens, that certainly will be impactful for the work season this year. You all have seen how green it is outside. This is March 11th. It's more than likely that we're going to probably lose a month of project work to mowing, it looks like, unless something really odd happens and it gets cold for a month. We hired Tyler Huffman as our new recreation supervisor. Tyler's from a small town in Illinois. He's a college baseball player. He's been in the work world for a while. His degree's in sports management. He's really hitting the ground running. I think he's going to be really, really good, and hopefully we can keep him for some period of time. So we've got a lot of data to share pieces with you tonight, and I'm going to try to get through it without putting you to sleep. But we have had some, the survey results, at least the draft portions of it are in, and I've got some data I can share. It's not complete yet, so we haven't issued the report. And I also have some information that Amy has helped us with. I'm going to grab Larry. Larry, you got to move. There you go. If you get motion sick, let me know. So this is from Placer AI, and you can see on this that this gives us great visit information as far as annual visits, weekly visits, daily visits, and I'll show you a couple more slides, another slide that
1 through 51 on the bottom is the weeks.
is the weeks of the year, right? So, so basically, the water slide is substantially complete, and the pool will need to be filled earlier than usual this year. We have to have filters running, water quality established, because the slide manufacturer has to come in and set flow rates and everything like that before anybody can actually use it. So that commissioning will happen in early May. So we should be open on May 25th, short of some kind of unforeseen mechanical, electrical installation problems they can't fix. We should be running for the 25th, which is good news because that means the water slide will be open on the 25th. So that's pretty exciting for a May opening. But you can see on this graph here, on this year by year, so the blue here is the first year, the red is the second year, the green is the third year. What we've talked about all along is how when you build these facilities, there's a need for regular updating so that you can keep your numbers up so that you can continue to pay forward. This distance in between the green and the blue is what you're hoping to recover when you make updates and when you do improvements and things like that, so that your operational budget doesn't take such a hit over a 10 or 15 year period. Instead, you're able to keep jumping back up to these higher levels, which makes it easier to make your payroll for all the lifeguards and everything else as you go by in time. And it puts it on a different budgeting basis, because then when you have capital dollars that you can do it, and you don't have to come up with a shortfall on an annual basis despite whatever else might be going on in the city. There we go. So So this shows you the time of day that people are the highest users. Obviously, right through the middle of the day is the peak time. We get a lot of calls that want us to be open in this time period, and we get a lot of people want us to be open in this time period, but when we've experimented with hours in those time zones, we generally haven't had good results. We end up losing more in personnel costs than you actually gain in entries.
Who's there at 6 a.m. in the morning?
Staff. That's so Placer AI works by tracking cell phone data. So anybody that's carrying a phone will show up in these reports. It doesn't give them an ID. It just simply means there was a cell phone there. Correct. Yeah. So I'm sure that's our staff. Our staff is there on a pretty regular basis, early in the morning and late at night for things that happen. So you can see day of the week is, there really isn't a slow day of the week at the pool. And this varies around a little bit year by year, week by week because of weather mostly. So the master plan survey results have come in. As I said, we have 119 pages currently. You're probably not going to read all of it. It's unless you have trouble going to sleep, and some of it's pretty in depth. But we are waiting for the geocoded sections to come back still, and those geocoded maps that tells us exactly which each neighborhood answered the question, and of course the dog park and the Tron Lu entrance are the particular ones that those particular maps are going to be important in making some decisions. But we do have a lot of good information already. Larry, batten down the hatches. I'm moving you again.
Yeah, I've got new contacts, and like contacts have eyeballs on them, so I can close my eyes behind the contacts, go to sleep, you never know what in my eyes.
Really?
Yeah.
Duly noted.
Just don't wake me up.
Oh, okay. All right. So, so some of these things over time are pretty consistent, and some of them are surprisingly mobile. Health and fitness and making Mexico a more desirable place to live, of course, reducing stress, preserve open space and environment. Those things always stay pretty steady as the biggest items that people support park usage for. I got a couple slides later on where I'll show you some older 2013 data versus. Go ahead.
Chad, you've got a percentage up there of your thing. How many responses did you get?
The target was 300 and a single-digit number, I believe, and we exceeded that by, I want to say, about 40 responses.
40.
Yeah, they exceeded. So the confidence interval is about 95%, Vicki.
Okay.
So
It doesn't say. I just wondered what it was.
yeah, it's in the text of the report. When we have I'm assuming when it's finished, whoever's doing what I do now will get it bound and get one in your hands at that point in time. So helping attracting new residents and businesses has improved quite a bit over time, and promoting tourism, helping reducing crimes have improved quite a bit. What really interested me on this, I went back and looked at some older ones, is the number of people that strongly disagree with these statements has dropped dramatically over the last 10 years. Most of those are in the gray now, and I'm not quite sure exactly what that means, but just so the
Maybe
council.
they read it backwards.
I don't know. But it's been, we do these every 5 years, and part of the point of going through this is to explain why it's important for somebody in my spot to keep getting this information, because we can see attitudes changing and demand changing for certain things over time, and that makes it easier for us to give the council good advice as to how we think of physical improvement should be made or how capital dollars should be spent. Most important to your household, physical fitness. So some things switch places here. Making Mexico a more desirable place to live really comes out big. You'll notice down here, increasing property values and promoting tourism, protecting history, really don't rate as far as what is the most important to people. The things that are most important to people are helping reduce crime, making it a more desirable place to live, and improving health. So those are kind of surprising. And this green bar tells you what their first choice was, or what was the most chosen. Second most chosen is the green, and the third most chosen is the blue. So, again, some of these things are staying pretty consistent. Additions you'd like to most have made in neighborhood parks nearest your residence, restrooms, despite the fact that pretty much every park has a restroom at this point, that continues to rate high. We get a surprisingly large number of requests for a second restroom in some of the larger parks. So that's a bridge that's going to have to be crossed at some point. A lot of the self-use, self-directed use kind of items like picnic tables, lighting, drinking fountains, picnic shelters. The dog park comes in all the way down to 27%. We're going to talk about this some. More trash cans, shade. Most of the stuff that rates really high is stuff that you use all by yourself, which is a little bit interesting. So walking continues to be the gold standard. What people want is walking opportunities. If you can get 93% on any survey for anything, you're doing pretty darn good. Do you like Chris's cookies at McDonald's? I don't know that you get 93%, although they're awesome. I'm just saying.
If they're fresh,
If they're fresh, yeah, it's the bomb. I'm telling you.
They're still melting a little bit.
You still got, fishing, running. And it's interesting where dog walking comes in here, because people are supportive of promoting that in city parks, but if you go back to the previous slide, only 27% want an off-leash dog park in their neighborhood. So as we've been discussing for a long time, people kind of talk out of both sides of their mouth on this thing to a certain extent with trying to cite a dog park. You can see that...
Well, it could be, Chad, that they're talking about the dog walking the dog. They're talking about all the sidewalks in the parks all over the place. When they talk about a dog park,
Yep.
They're talking about a more confined area.
Yep.
That's probably what they're making a distinction with.
That's true. So then you come back again, need for recreation facilities. Again, indicating need basically means you'd say we need more of this. Walking and biking trails, number one again, 75%. Lighting and cameras, picnic shelters, large parks, small neighborhood parks, playground areas. The swimming pool doesn't even make 50%. Fishing, natural areas, splash pad, and then we get dog park. We don't have the percentage of people claiming need on the dog park that I thought we would see, considering the amount of chatter and the amount of input that I've gotten and that staff has gotten over the last 5 or 6 years. So these things say something to you, because adult softball fields is at 14%. So horseshoe pits is at 19%, which is actually up a lot from where it was 10 years ago. But it's still more than things like a campground and basketball courts and things that are traditional park amenities. So there is a very real desire for it. I mean, it's substantial. The question is it substantial enough for the council? If when that geocoded map gets back, and since I'm going out, I can say, when that geocoded map's coming out, if nobody wants it in their neighborhood, you got a tough choice on your hands, because if you're going to have a dog park, you're either going to have to site it outside of town, which it is legal for a city to own land outside of town, or you're going to have to just put it where staff and the council think it best fits. So you may have a fight on your hand to get something done for people who legitimately want and need something, and that's never the great position you want to be in.
So are shelters overbooked?
I think if you had twice as many shelters on the nicest days of the year, you wouldn't have enough. Now, part of...
But are we talking about like, I mean, are they talking about people having an opportunity to rent them or just people going out to the shelter? Just randomly going to eat?
Rental opportunity.
Rental opportunity.
Rental opportunities, yep. Yeah, if you're just going out to eat lunch, Steve, there's a pretty good chance you're about to find a seat.
Okay.
Yeah, but if you're wanting something on Friday afternoon, Saturday morning, Sunday for your family reunion, it gets very tight very quick.
How's our no tent policy going since camp?
I have had one campground call since we did that.
Okay.
And it originated at RS Green Park, and I think the night guy sent them over there. Remember the folks that were camping at the park one night? You might not even have known about it.
Are we still doing the stocking on the fish, on the trout?
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah, in the wintertime when the water temperature drops, those filamentaceous algae can't live, and so the lake clears up. As soon as the water temperature comes up, it gets bad again, but by then the trout are caught out.
Okay.
So you can see the traditional stuff like archery facilities and, softball fields and things, just they don't rank the way some of this newer era recreation opportunity like, walking trails and dog parks and things like that. The only one that really is holding its own is fishing, frankly. And fishing numbers continue to be really good. So, go ahead.
One more question. When you mark need up here, like need for restrooms and things, you mark it as the highest need. So they think we need more walking and biking trails, or it is a big need of the...
They think that's what we need the most.
Okay. We need to add those things, increase those things.
Yeah.
I want to make sure I'm clear on that.
Yeah, and so if you don't have, if you have to drive to the Green Estate from my house, you guys know I live out in the end of North Jefferson, right? It's a pretty good distance. So if you lived in the north side of town somewhere where you didn't have as good an access, I can understand why there's still some demand for that. People would like to be close to their house where they can just walk out the door with their dog or whatever down the street and go for a walk and then come home. And I think you're going to see that become, over time, that's going to kind of be the new municipal standard. That's how the new line cities, or what they call the new line cities, are being built. If you look at like suburbs of Denver and places like that, if you build a new neighborhood, you build all the walking paths and biking paths right along with it at the same time.
Wide sidewalks.
Yeah, and it's all connected, and so that's what you're fighting. People go places, they stay at a hotel, they enjoy that. Obviously, they have big box stores and things, bringing in more sales tax money, higher incomes to push all that. So, I mean, it's not necessarily a Gordian knot we're going to be able to solve, but we've tried to do our best. So here on the dog park further, if they developed an off-leash dog park in your neighborhood, 44% are very supportive, 28% somewhat supportive, a full third not supportive almost. But if you go back to, where is it here? If you go back to this one, check all the additions you'd like to have the city make nearest your residence, a dog park is not ranking very high. I'm just saying I'll support it for somebody else down here. So maybe there'll be a little less conflict than I think coming into this. And maybe we'll get lucky and there'll be a couple of neighborhoods because that's a pretty good segment of people. Right here, in between somewhat supportive and very supportive. But the devil's in the details, like the last time we tried to do the off-leash area at Northeast Park, and the attitude was, if you recall, well, we're fine with the people that are already doing it. We just don't want a bunch more people here doing it. And so that may be the rub on this.
Well, and I think it comes from, I think there's a couple things that happen with it. I think number one, it's kind of like chickens. People think we're going to open a dog park and there's going to be 1,000 dogs there.
Yes.
And that's not going to happen. Like, I have a dog. Will I take my dog there? I might. My dog doesn't need to run around, doesn't like to run around, so, I don't, but not saying there won't be days they'll be there, but I talked to somebody who said they were at a softball tournament, there's a dog park 50 yards away, and they had no clue.
Right.
had
Right.
no clue there was a dog park
Right,
there.
yeah.
And you wouldn't have.
Yeah, you won't smell it, you generally won't hear it. If it's well-designed, they won't
And that's
bark
what
a
they're
lot.
thinking. Well, there's going to be a dog
Yeah.
park in our neighborhood. Well, there's
Yeah.
going to be 1,000 dogs barking.
Right.
You can't sleep.
Those dogs would be barking at midnight. I've
Yeah.
heard that.
Yeah.
I've heard that a couple times. I'm like, well, you know, the park's closed at 11.
Yeah.
We can close the dog park for quiet hours, whatever time we want. You know, yeah. So yeah, I think hopefully this information and talking about it again, if we keep talking about it, keep getting the community educated, we'll get closer and closer to getting this built. So this is interesting. In 2013, households which parks do households feel are most important to the city? Garfield, now Tron Lou Park was at 8%. Tron Lou Park now is at 17%. So that's a huge change. Softball fields were at 15%. I don't think, they didn't even make it this time. So when I'm sorry, here they are, 10%. So when we change facilities and we change access and we change uses, the popularity of these different parks changes over time. And one of the important things to note here is that Green Estate Park is at 50%. Green Estate Park's at 53%, 73%, 72%. Those are our parks where we have walking available. So makes a lot of sense there. This one I put in here so the council could see their money was well spent. 2013, good was 47% of how people rated the pool. Excellent was 7%. Now excellent, you're at 37%. Good, 52%. Fair's down to 11%. Poor is down to only 1%. So that's what we want to see. We want to see people being happier with facilities, thinking facilities are more well cared for, trying to be good stewards of their tax dollars. So yeah, the 1% are folks that didn't behave. So we can talk a little bit about operations. Overall, I was pretty happy with this number. 16% think our overall condition is excellent, 60% good, 22% fair, and only 2% poor. We've clawed our way up to being just a hair behind the national benchmark on this. We're still a single-digit percentage behind, I think about 4 or 5% of where we want these numbers to be being above the national average. But considering the size of our community and our tax base, we're way ahead of the ball.
Why would somebody think it's poor? What would be a poor?
So, say for instance, you live across from RS Green and the restrooms are locked, and you come out, and every time you come out there, you're walking around and the restrooms are locked all the time. Well, you might think that that's because the restrooms are not maintained or whatever, when it's actually because we're locking out somebody who's looking for a place to sleep. So, and there are things we have still that we need to get fixed. For instance, there's always like park signposts are rotten off, as far as like we just talked about entry signs. I mean, there's things continually falling apart that we have to get fixed again. You may find a bathroom that has a fascia board that is rotting that we have on our list that we need to fix. I mean, we're not where I would want to be in a perfect world yet, Chris. And I'll be the first to admit that.
I have a hard time calling it poor, though. But
yeah,
I almost thought it'd have to be something
drastic. Some people can be pretty hard on us.
Back to
my world, okay?
I don't serve hamburgers. So.
And I know not everybody falls into this category. Do the people take care of the bathrooms we have now, or do we find a lot of problems with them? So if we build another bathroom, we're worried about it. I understand the problems.
Here's my answer to that question. Think back to first grade. Everybody that you went to first grade with, regardless of what their personal habits were or how odd they were or how smart they were, is probably still in the population. So there are people that use our things perfectly fine in the way you would normally expect people to, and there's people that are pretty off on this fringe and pretty off on that fringe. And our job is to serve 100% of those people as Parks Department. And we take that seriously, and we really try to do that, and we try to treat everybody with respect, regardless of what that situation is. But yeah, there are some people that have pretty poor ways that we have to deal with, AKA the tennis shelter doors that got kicked in twice in a week. And so how do we fix that? Well, we go through and we buy steel frame doors to replace the original doors that the building trades class put in there, which would have been fine in a normal setting. In our setting, that's not fine. So, benches are extra heavy duty, and, picnic tables are heavy duty so that you can't tear them up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk about some of the stuff we do every year. I think all this stuff you guys pretty much know, but I figured you never know unless you kind of run through the list if you really do or not. So I'm going to hit more of the maintenance stuff rather than the program stuff. So, we got to open and close all the restrooms every year. That means winterizing. A lot of times in the spring, we get a lot of complaints that we're not opening it early enough. We push it back as far as we can, but when we have freeze damage, that's a lot of work to put them all back together. Mowing and weeding, as I just said, is going to probably kick off in March. That's almost a full extra month to 5 weeks of staff time that won't do other things. So if we have a long fall and we mow late in the winter, which happens some years, I can remember some years we mowed in December, it really affects our ability to do things like fixed posts, fascia boards, those other things. So sometimes you'll see things kind of drop off for a year, and then if we get a good long winter, we get more of those things done. We'll catch up some. So we've got to open and close the pool. That is now a bigger job than it used to be, but it's worth doing. We've got a lot of fabrication projects that we work on. You've all seen the new signs going up in the parks over the last few years. We make those in-house. Tree planting is a very important part of what we do because we're always removing trees also. Lots of construction projects and natural area management. We haven't done any burning for a few years, but it's coming back up around where we're going to need to. Dumping trash is any day it's 60 degrees or nicer activity. So we're getting ready to bring back our part-time guy that helps us with that right now. I just signed the action today. Cleaning restrooms is a daily activity. We get a lot of complaints in the summertime when it's hot that nobody's cleaned this restroom in a week. Well, the reality is somebody was there this morning and did it. It just if you have a lot of people using a restroom, it can get grody quick. We do tree removal and stump removal. We operate the cemetery. We do downtown snow removal, put up Christmas decorations, operate the brush yard year-round. We do a lot of assisting our cooperating nonprofits, and then we fabricate other amenities besides the signs. And then, of course, as you know, lake management is something that's constantly on our list and takes a lot more time than people would think. Yeah.
This is probably been answered, maybe not tonight, but before, but I've never maintain or operate Elmwood or whatever it said. And how much of Elmwood do we maintain? We have nothing to do with that, right?
So, maintenance of the cemetery grounds is the property right stick that we own. The people that own a gravesite actually own the physical gravesite, and they own their headstone, they own the things that are on there. But we have the right, since we have the maintenance right, to say, well, this is what can be put out there, this is what can be planted out there, yada, yada. So basically, if your headstone is falling over, that you need to fix that. So,
mowing the gravesite itself, we do that even though we don't mow.
Yeah, we do the mowing, we do the weed eating, we do the burials. We do not set the vaults. The monument company sets the vaults, or the vault company rather. And then, yeah, we do the backfills, we do the grave repairs, we do all the record keeping. Administrative services helps us out with that. Kathy Sims is responsible for those records under my direction, or whoever. So the Parks Director in the code is the cemetery director also.
And I'm assuming there's a perpetual maintenance fee of some kind?
There is a perpetual maintenance fee that came off of some of those, but by state rules, we're only allowed to basically invest it in CDs, isn't it, Vicki? And with CDs coming back up, it's finally producing maybe $5,000 a year. For years, it was around $2,000. So it's not really enough to be any big difference one way or the other.
Thank you.
So we've got some current projects out there that need to be finished, and I'm sharing this with you all, obviously, because there's going to have to be a handoff of some things. As you know, I'll be living in town, and whoever takes this job, I'll help them out any I can. The cemetery maintenance building has some things that need to be finished yet. The hailstorm roof repairs, we still got to do the interment shelter in the Northeast Park bathroom. Staff is trying to get that metal pricing finished. And we're probably going to put on new metal on those ourselves because of the nature of those two buildings. Disc golf course improvements are underway. The Toronto Park parking entrance project obviously is on the books. Drew and I are working on that, and we're waiting for that geocoded map that shows what the neighborhood wants on that. I am hearing more and more comment, though, that people in the neighborhood are not happy about the idea that there'd be a lot more traffic in the neighborhood. The overall split community-wide on that question on the survey was about 80-20 for bringing it off the boulevard, so just FYI for you. So I think that one's pretty close, and that one shouldn't be any big, giant political cross to bear for you guys. Future projects that are currently priorities that we need to complete. The Teal Lake restroom, we finished the site plan on the current budget. It's on the list to get put back on next year. The parking lot entrance extension and the parking lot itself. With where we are in water slide fundraising, we don't know if we'll get that whole project built or not. We have a truck in the budget that's canceled, so right now, because we can't get it for 8 to 10 months. So right now, we think we're pretty darn close to being spot on, but Bruce knows where we stand on all that, and we've got a plan, so I wouldn't expect that to be a big problem. Of course, the dog park is the 96-pound gorilla, and Kiwanis Lake renovation. Bless you and good luck. That's a big project. It's not easy. Drew and I have had a lot of discussion about re-engineering the storm flow into, around, or through that lake, and it's going to take some thinking and planning to get that done, but it's not going to be cheap to make it right. I can tell you that now. So I've got a few things through here that I kind of wanted to review together, partly from the perspective of, I think at this time where I'm heading out, it's kind of important to talk about some issues and successes that we've enjoyed together as city staff and a city council. And I'm starting with the gazebo, because I don't think many people remember how lightning rod unpopular of an issue building this was. We had people, Chris is nodding his head, he remembers, because you remember everything. we had people come into city council meeting and fussing about what a waste of money it was and why would we do this, despite the fact that it was grant money. So this was our entire capital budget in my first year as a park director, and it was, I think, $12,000 or $13,000. And we had a hard time getting it built because we were wasting that money. We should have sent it back to the foundation. So that was kind of where the city councils of that era, that's what they were putting up with to try to get anything done. And so be thankful you're city council people now, because it was a different time. Then we got a congressional earmark to build Lakeview Trail, and there was still quite a bit fussing about us spending that money. And you may remember that when we cut the trail out, people started walking on the dirt. And that was when we started to, before we ever built the trail, people were just walking on the dirt where the bulldozer cut it out. And then we kind of started to turn that a little bit as far as the NIMBYs and negative Nellies not kind of being so much in control of public perception of what we were trying to do. And this was the big thing that changed things, was when Rennie Smith and his family donated the Green Estate Park. Made a big, big difference as to who was interested in parks, made a big, big difference as to what kind of support council people got for spending money on some of these things, because the Smith family allowed us to sell those lots, as if you'll recall, that allowed us to do the development of the Green Estate Trail and some of the other things. So all of a sudden we went from not having any walking facilities and a lot of demand to having two of them that were both pretty good sized. We were talking about that slide back there of more walking. If you live on the north side of the town, that's getting to be 15 years ago and you haven't got nothing yet. So you got to remember how park neighborhoods see things is oftentimes, what did my neighborhood get, not what did the whole town get, which is what we're looking at oftentimes. So I would suspect that you're going to hear more and more, why don't I have a finished walking facility from that part of the community over the next 10 years. A Christmas Carol in 2008. This was a huge undertaking for us. Sandy Ben, if you recall, was our arts person at the time. We actually were the producers of this. We still ran the community theater at the time. Lois Brace came in and had this great idea. We got behind her. We all worked together to make this happen. The gate from this is what allowed us to spin the community theater off to Presser Hall, and the community theater being able to go to Presser Hall was what allowed Presser Hall to begin to collecting the gate on the facility, which is what let Presser start really growing. Chris, I think you were around for a lot of that, weren't you? And so without Lois Brace, obviously this wouldn't have happened, but and I'm just kind of trying to go through some of these things so that we can see there were some really important steps that happened through some of these years that maybe aren't as obvious as they seemed at the time, but looking back, as I was thinking about this and having this discussion with the council, is that this was a really important piece. We started the Mexico Park Foundation in 2012. The first big project was the Fairground tennis courts. The Mexico Parks Foundation has been a great partner so far. I mean, pickleball courts, the signs in the parks, horseshoe courts, I mean, all kinds of things that they've worked on with us to, some of them are big projects, some of them are small projects. This group was a really critical step in us being able to pursue public-private partnerships. Without it, we wouldn't have been able to dip into that, and there's a lot of things out there in the system that are there directly because of this effort. So I would just really encourage everybody to be supportive of that group if, as they, are transitioning leadership and they're going to have to figure out how to work with somebody new up here. So, if any of those people reach out to you, please help them any way you can, because they're volunteers and, they don't have to be doing this to help the community. as you don't either, I know. The Tehran-Lu fireworks and the Tehran-Lu Park naming, I think this kind of speaks for itself as to why it's important to the community with some of the things that have transpired. At the time when this all started, it wasn't obvious this is where it was going to go. We got engaged with it because it seemed like another special event that we could do to, help improve how the community accessed entertainment and leisure. So that was obviously a very important deal. Fairgrounds Aquatic Center 2021, you all know that was a very long trip, and a lot of you were intimately involved with it for a long time. And then finally, the Fairgrounds Aquatic Center water slide that is now substantially complete, and hopefully will pump up our gate for about another 5 years to 10 years. We'll see how effective it is at that as time goes by. And I just want to say thank you to the current council and past council members, city managers, all the people that we've worked with, park board members, Parks and Rec staff, all the other city department staff, all our partner agencies. I hate to go into them because I'd inevitably leave somebody out, but there's at least a dozen partner agencies we've worked really hand in hand with for a long time. The donors that have funded a lot of these projects, and of course all the people of Mexico that have supported this. They passed a park sales tax. None of this is possible without all those people, and I hope all those people and all these different entities continue to embrace this and stay behind it, because as we saw in the data earlier, if we want to attract people to our community, we need a strong public safety so people are safe, and we need things for people to do so they want to live here. We need good streets so people aren't complaining about potholes. I mean, all the functions of this staff are brutally important and need our support. And I will still be in Mexico, and I will still support this. If you ever need anything out of me, don't hesitate to call me. I think you all know how to find me. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Chad. Thank you for your service, and you've done a great job. We'll miss you. So, okay, moving on to our approval of the minutes for next.
Move we approve the minutes.
Second.
Briggs,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Williams,
Abstain.
Miller,
Yes.
Hay,
Yes.
Okay, for our business night, we've got an ordinance that requires 2 readings, and we have a resolution. But first, the ordinance requires 2 readings by title only and passage. Bill number 2024-8. An ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute an airport infrastructure grant. Mr. Schlegel.
Yes, Your Honor. This grant actually starts getting us some money for projects we've already done. So to cover the details, Drew Williford.
Well, good evening, council. This, as Bruce mentioned, is a grant that starts getting us some money. This actually will be a 90-10 split, with the city leveraging $33,777 to get $304,000 for a total of that $337,777. This grant actually applies to a project that's going on right now and is in its final phases for airport work on runway 624, and this includes electrical enhancements. This includes pavement work, a number of things, striping improvements. And in this particular case, what we had was the city front the money for this project, and we are using these grants as they come out. The federal government is lagging in disbursement. So what has happened is these grants have gotten behind. This is part of what you may have heard as the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, BIL. And with that, this money is now available for the city. It requires an ordinance to be accessed, though, through the Missouri Department of Transportation. So we're requesting that council proceed with 2 readings by title only and passage of the attached ordinance. And we will forward this on to MoDOT and hopefully get over $300,000 for this.
I move for first reading of bill number 2024-08.
Second.
Hay,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Bill number 2020-408, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute an airport infrastructure grant with the Missouri Department of Transportation Commission for the design runway 6 displaced threshold, runway 624, edge lighting replacement and pavement repairs at the Mexico Memorial Airport. I move for second reading of bill number 2020-408.
Second.
Hay,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Bill number 2020-408, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to execute an airport infrastructure grant with the Missouri Department of Transportation Commission for the design, runway 6 displacement threshold, runway 624, edge lighting replacement and pavement repairs at the Mexico Memorial Airport. I move for passage of bill number 2020-408.
Second.
Hay,
Yes.
Briggs,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, excuse me, moving on to item 6, resolution. This requires a reading by title only and passage. Bill number 2024-06, resolution authorizing the city manager to sign contract documents with Sweeten Ceilings. Mr. Slagle.
Yes, Your Honor, this is our annual contract for some street maintenance work on crack sealing, joint sealing, and to cover the details of the bid and the recommendation, once again, Drew Wilford.
I believe this is our 4th year of crack and joint sealing, contracted work, I should say. And in this particular instance, what we are looking at doing is changing up, moving from an annual bid process to a 3-year contract. So this is a substantial departure from our prior few years. This will cover work in this current year and then 2 additional years after that. So we have posted this in the Mexico Ledger, advertised, sent out an email to list of potential bidders, and we received 4 bids back, with the bidding being based on work for this current calendar year, or I should say fiscal year, pardon me. So what you see are the prices for that work, and as always with crack and joint sealing, pricing varies substantially, with the low bid being $8,754 with Sweeten's Sealing Services out of Wright City, to the high bid being $131,310. That's with Vance Brothers out of Kansas City, Missouri. That difference, of course, is alarming to anyone looking at it, so we looked into why. This does happen every year when we see a substantial difference. You may recall this from prior years, and we have talked to Vance Brothers and other entities in years past about why that occurs. The reason deals with the process they use. In some cases, contractors may have a single vehicle that does all the work. It may go ahead and have an attachment on the front, on the back, and everything is self-contained in the unit. In other cases, they may be required to have a trailer and other items that increase their costs and the number of people that are utilized to perform the work. Given the cost of $8,000, and especially noting our engineering estimate of nearly $36,000, we were quite surprised to see something that low. So we not only contacted Sweeten's Sealing Services to make sure there wasn't an error in their bid, and we can confirm there's not. We also checked with 3 references: the city of Chesterfield, the city of Des Peres, and then St. Charles County, all of which gave them stellar remarks and reviews. There are no red flags with this bid. With such a low bid, and given our estimate, we're likely even to pursue a change order to essentially do maybe double or even triple the amount of work for what we had originally estimated. So I'm very pleased with the outcome here. I'm hoping to move forward with this and even potentially with a change order. Just for the record, crack and joint sealing, when you look at the different types of treatments that you can put on a street to extend its life, is actually the best bang for the buck that we can get. You'll notice we've been doing chip sealing. We're going to be doing that again this year. That's a great product, lasts for 6 to 7 years. but it's still not as great as a bang for your buck as this product is. So we would recommend proceeding with reading by title only, passage of the attached resolution, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
So, okay, so the 8,000, the 8,700 is for this year,
Yep,
but we're doing a 3 consecutive year with them?
correct.
So we're going to come back to them, or they're just going to do it for 3 years at $8,700?
No, it'll be renewable, kind of like an engineering on-call contract. So we'll develop our street list for next year, some of which we already have, and then we'll approach them about, actually, to be completely transparent, we'll do a year-end review with them on their work. They have the option to renegotiate prices on their unit pricing that they provided in this year's bid for the next coming year. A lot of times you'll see a price increase of 4 or 5%, or maybe sometimes more than that lately, but we have the full option of turning that down if that price increase is too high. And then we would provide them our list of streets at that updated unit price for 2025, and then we would do that all again in 2026.
Drew, these other cities that have used them, that were the references,
Yep.
Have they used them for more than 1 year?
Yes, I don't remember the exact number for each one, but they were all happy with their product.
So they did it, and they also gave low prices or low bids to these other towns?
I didn't ask about the pricing. That's not something that we discussed, but I did ask about, we asked about work quality and performance and things of that nature, and they had no problems or even questionable items that would even raise a red flag.
Because that was quite shocking to see that.
We were too, and looking at it and talking with the contractor, it sure seems like they are interested in moving into the mid-Missouri area and doing more work here. There's actually no contractors that do much crack ceiling work in our immediate area. There's numerous in the St. Louis area. So as far as cities go, the city of Mexico is the only city in mid-Missouri that I'm aware of that contracts out crack and joint sealing. It's something that I have been approached on from other cities that are interested in getting in on our work because we are doing this. But a lot of cities either lease the equipment and do it some per year, or they own equipment and they pay their maintenance costs on their equipment, and they have their own street division go out and do that for 1 week a year or whatever the time period may be. So this is a little different approach. I've certainly talked to other cities and they're all interested in this approach.
So you would anticipate then if they come back then and do a second and third year that their prices would be reasonable then?
I sure hope so. And if they're not, we will
If not,
reject it.
okay.
From my
Make sure
standpoint,
you have that
absolutely.
insurance.
From my standpoint, we've been doing this annually, so we've been bidding annually. If we need to reject it in December, let's say, we reject it, and like we have been in the past, we put out a new bid in January and February.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
So in effect, Drew, this really isn't a 3-year contract.
It is.
If we can say no to their proposal for next year and put out another RFP or something, it's not really a 3-year contract.
I'd say it's a contract with the condition that they have to perform well in order for us to renew and move on to year 2 and year 3.
Not only perform well, but price it right.
Right. Yep.
$122,000 or $123,000 difference below the highest pole. It scares the tar out of me. I promise you. I just can't imagine, honestly. But as long as we can get out after 1 year, if it's not good, okay.
We'll leave the 121 out and just go for the 40 and the 50,000 against 8,000 is a mind teaser all by itself.
Yep. I agree.
I move for the reading of bill number 2024-09.
Second. Hay.
Yes.
Briggs.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes. Bill number 2024-09, a resolution authorizing the city manager to sign contract documents with Sweeten Sealing Services LLC for the 2024-26 crack and joint seal contract. I move for passage of Bill 2024-09.
Second.
Hay.
Yes.
Briggs.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Okay, our next item of business is, excuse me, is that it?
Go ahead, you're fine.
You're good.
Move on.
Our next item of business is staff report, emergency repair work on the Mexico Industrial Rail Spur. Mr. Slagle.
Yes, Your Honor. As I think reported to you last week, that we had a rail spur that going to the industrial park that's owned by the city had broke, and we had to do some repairs and immediate repairs because it was in the street, let alone moving some rail traffic. So we had to move forward. So to cover the details of what needed to get done and costs, once again, Drew Williford.
Council Bruce covered it pretty well. This was an unexpected cost to the city. By all means, our rail spur is quite old and seems is costing more and more every year to operate. In the far left of your screen and sort of the top middle of your screen before you, you've got a couple pictures that show where it broke. Thankfully, Ozark Valley Railroad called us and informed us of it without a derailment. This could have easily caused such. So we ended up calling our on-call contractor, which is M&K Rail Construction. They were able to, and this was on a Friday, so they were able to find new rail and get someone, actually get a group of people on site by Sunday to begin work, which ended up by, I believe it was then Wednesday morning, that we had everything reopened to traffic. And so all of that work that was done to remove the street, the asphalt there. Next to it, you can see in the bottom right, just a little bit is removed. They brought in a tamping machine to re-tamp it, and then several loads of rock, and then re-asphalted the approach through there. You may have been through there since it was even completed and reopened. The likely cause, and I say likely because we can't be 100% certain, we're dealing with pretty old school bus?
My school bus.
Your school bus? The likely cause there, we noticed a potential profile difference. And what that means is that the crossing was a bit potentially higher and there were some dips in the rail. So perhaps some of the rock had been pushed out over time as those trains come through. So what they brought in was that tamper. That tamper brings in the rock underneath the ballasts or the ties and ends up raising the rail just a little bit to get rid of all of that. So we've got a very stable surface now. They did that tamping for about 120 feet. Everything, engineering was on site to monitor the work. Everything looks good. We're recommending that we go ahead and approve the emergency repair at a cost of $29,000 and pay that to M&K Rail Construction.
Just don't make steel like when Carnegie was doing it, do that. Breaks down.
What is that? I'm just gonna say, yeah, I've been here for a while, and when I first started, this rail spur was a nothing. I mean, we didn't ever really spend money on it, and now it's a problem every year. And so, are we thinking anything long-term about this situation out there?
I'd say there's a couple of things. One is, you're right, you didn't do much with it, which has now led to some of the issues that we have.
Right.
They should have been doing maintenance all along, because when we started looking at regular maintenance, it was been deferred for some time, and that's what's cost us more. Now, as we look at this rail spur, we do only service one particular industry. And so I do believe, and we've discussed it, that we need to have some discussions with them in regards to their intended long-term use and what we've been spending. And I think we need to be talking to them about some joint assistance and some maintenance on it. Otherwise, we need to look at, does trucking it in make more sense for us, or some other approach to this? Because you're right, it's a fairly substantial cost to us annually for one person, so to speak, one company. So I think we got to take some serious looks going forward on how we can share some costs or get out of it somehow.
Get out of it, yeah.
Chris, to your point, and I apologize for not mentioning this, we actually did budget quite a bit higher amount this year, in this current fiscal year, to put towards rail maintenance. That was $90,000 that we budgeted. We used up almost $85,000 of that on other projects. So this is actually going beyond our budgeted amount. We do have enough cash in the Economic Development Fund, which is where maintenance costs come out of, to cover this work. But it's well worth noting that we're over $100,000 now at this point.
For the rail. Over $100,000 for the rail.
On maintenance for our
Maintenance for the
industrial rail spur.
Okay.
This year. Just
For one fiscal year. Yep.
How much is it used by that one person?
Every week. They have weekly runs, sometimes twice a week.
Okay, these, do we,
I move that we pay the emergency repairs to, for the Mexico Industrial Spur for the amount of $29,000.
second.
The M&K Rail Construction. I can get it in a minute.
Hay,
Yes.
Briggs,
yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
Okay. Next item of business is a staff report regarding a purchase of a compact truck loader for the street department. Mr. Schlegel.
Yes, it's a compact track loader, skid loader, and to cover the bids received and the recommendation, once again, through Wilford.
This is a planned purchase, thankfully, instead of an emergency one as last time. Our street division currently has a 2016 Bobcat compact track loader, or skid steer, and we've been thoroughly unimpressed with it. It's had quite a number of problems, and the customer service has been pretty rough in our times in trying to get it serviced. So budgeting for this current year, we allocated $75,000 for the purchase of a new skid steer, and utilizing Sourcewell, which is the similar cooperative purchase process, I'll call it, and website that allows us to use a competitively bid system. We obtained quotes from both Martin Equipment out of Columbia, Missouri, and Seidenstricker out of Mexico, Missouri, and both bids came in very close. As you'll see, $54,800 for Martin, and for Seidenstricker, $57,945.10. We do have a local preference of 5% for any company that's inside city limits, which we looked at for Seidenstricker. They do come out just slightly above that 5%, about 5.43%. So the local does not apply here, from what I understand. What we would recommend is moving forward with Martin Equipment. We've had very good success with them. We've worked with them in the past. They specialize in heavy equipment operations. They've done numerous good jobs of servicing our equipment, everything from the loader to the big front loader, I should say, to skid steers and other equipment. I've been very, very happy with their customer service and their prompt response and ability to get parts. So we would recommend proceeding to purchase a 331G compact track loader from Martin Equipment of Columbia, Missouri, at a bid price of $54,800. And point of note, I apologize, the key difference in price was due to the trade-in value of our current 2016 Bobcat skid steer.
Man, I struggle going away from a local business over $600 is what I'm figuring. $2,500, whether 5%, is that correct? For $50,000, adding $2,500 to $5,400 would be 56 something. They're right at, I struggle with somebody who employs as many Mexico people and pumps as much money and taxes in here locally that we're going away from them to someone in Columbia for $500. I don't know. Now, I don't know if there's anything to be done tonight, but we're talking about a company that does quite a bit for Mexico, Missouri.
And we've had this discussion many times about local preference, and that's why we have that 5% in there. And we've been advised many times, if you don't follow your policy, then you're in, then why have it or why even do it? And it's a big issue. That's why as staff, we have to follow the policy and says, okay, I get it, but they didn't meet it, so we have to go with low.
Is the,
Yeah, I understand all that, Steve, and I agree with what you're saying. And I'm good friends of all of us in Mexico, and so I give you my quick calculation, it not even less than $600. So it really does bother me. And I understand the policy, and I understand the rationale, and reason for following the policy, and I understand all those things. But man, it really bothers me a lot.
so is 5% state statute or something that we have to go
That's an
by?
adopted city council
We
policy.
did it here.
No.
We didn't have it when I started. And about the second or third meeting, we had the same issue.
Because I think I think schools, I think we got probably somebody here can answer that. I think schools is 10% within, I think they're 10% for local. So, my thing is I don't, I don't want to be throwing money away, but I'm sitting there going, it's hard. It's just hard. I don't think they'll go under if we don't buy from them, but I know that a lot of people in this community ask a lot of them, and
Well, there might be an issue with just suddenly we're unhappy and then we want to change our policy rather than change the policy and then put it out there for the rest of the time. So,
But we do use 10% on smaller purchases. Larger purchases is 5.
and they,
And I agree with what y'all are saying. Does our policy, excuse me, does our policy, or when we ask for bids, does the bid document state we can
Best
accept whatever we want to accept for no reason or any reason? In other words, can we say, hey, we don't want to do this. We want to take this for $400 more. And it's the bid document, is that true or not true?
We can I think so. We can reject any bids for whatever reason, and then we can accept the most responsive and best bid for the city. It does not require us to go with the low bid, but it would be outside the normal policy to go with, I think, in this case, go beyond the 5%.
Yeah, and there's nothing, and Dave is sitting here, but there's nothing in state law that says you even have to give a local preference. But if you're going to give one, it must be in writing, and you must follow it, as I understand the law.
So David Shaky just said that's right.
That's right.
yeah. So
It's tough. I move we accept the bid from Martin Equipment for $54,800 for a John Deere 331G skid steer with much heart problem.
Second.
Hay,
No.
Briggs,
Yes.
Weber,
I'm going to say yes begrudgingly.
Williams,
Yes.
Miller.
Same way, yes.
Okay, thank you all. Next thing on the agenda is claims. Do I have a motion to pay the bills?
Move we pay the bills.
Second.
Briggs,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Hay.
Yes.
Okay, next thing on the agenda is our council comments, and Chris Williams, you want to start?
I can. First, I want to say I agree with everybody on the John Deere situation and sign stickers. They do a ton for us out at Optimus. I can't thank them enough, but I also realize that we have a policy, and like you said, it's in writing, we have to follow it, or we could potentially get ourselves in trouble. And so that's why I just had to say yes. But it's a tough policy, and maybe it's something that we need to look at in the future, or take it out altogether so that we don't have these issues. But that's that. Second, I just want to say there's been a lot of exciting stuff happening in our town the last few weeks. We had the basketball team make it all the way to state, the men's basketball team. The women's basketball team finished second in the district. Miss Gibbons theater people and debate and speech people, several of them are going to districts. And then my own son's academic team, they won another tournament this weekend, and they play a nationally ranked team in 2 weeks from Ohio. So that's all I got.
Thank you. Steve?
Free Big Macs if they win.
Wow.
Don't they do that in some places?
That's
They have,
St. Louis. St.
when
Louis,
they,
yeah.
have a shutout or something.
Yeah, hey, maybe we should do that.
Yeah. Glad to hear. Chad, did you say that the building trades was helping out with some stuff around?
Oh, we were referring to the tennis shelter that they helped build.
Okay, good. I'm glad. I know you're talking about those, like the boards and the restrooms and stuff. I thought that'd be a great
Cooperated
thing.
with them several times.
That's good. That's probably some good projects. Same thing at the school. All the sports teams, activities teams, and fine arts doing great things. And I said it last time, and I think people really don't understand. Kind of seeing the presentations from the parks is just kind of some of the phenomenal things you've done with your team, Chad, with the limited amount of budget that we have for our parks, and people kind of don't understand that. They think, let's do this, and let's get out the checkbook, let's write a check, and there's still some boundaries we have to be within, and I think that the council before and yourself and your tenure here have done just a great job staying within that and providing all these great things, and I just say get out there and take part in them and enjoy them, and of course, give us suggestions if you have them. And I know you were talking about the getting people to the pool, keeping that arc up there. So I guess our next question will be, what do we need to add after the slide to make sure that we continue to move that arc upwards? So
It'll probably be taking out an existing piece of equipment and simply replacing it at that point.
There you go.
So it's all set up so that pieces can be removed and replaced without construction.
Okay, good. We'll put that at Councilman Williams' private pool. The old
When did I get that? Shoot. Yes. Always wanted a pool of my own.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
Well, they really said it all, except I want to say that I'm excited about the slide, and I'm more excited about seeing the current mayor take the first slide. I've heard that's coming on, so, yeah. So,
That's what I got written down, Chris.
That's what I thought. That's all I want to say.
Do you wear a shower cap like they did back then?
No, I've made a decision about who's going on the slide first.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. And since I'm probably having to be a little bit more careful about my age and stuff, I've decided that I want to see each one of you go down the slide before me. And I want to know that it's safe for me to do. Okay? And then I'll decide. May not still, but I'll decide.
Oh, I thought I had a good idea there.
I'm in.
I had to think about
Somebody
it.
from the commissioning team that goes down first. It's not going to be any of us.
I don't think I'll be going down it, but anyway.
Other than that, we have great weather, and
Okay.
for that reason, we're just living the dream here in
That's right.
Mexico,
That's
Missouri.
right. And it's
in
also,
March.
and also the Farmer's Almanac says it's supposed to snow in April all month, so we'll see about that. That's what it says, I don't know. Okay. All right. I just want to say one thing, Chad, I was sitting here thinking about it for a second, and you were talking about, when you did the gazebo and you put some of these things out to the public and how they were sort of not so positive about it. And I was thinking how, then as we went along in the report, it seemed like, I think it's become a lot more positive. People are feeling really good about the parks and the potential of the parks, and, they're seeing the vision of it. And I think one thing, we've had some really great success, like with our pool and building that and things like that. But I also thought, we've had some really good leadership too. So I want to thank you, and I want to thank your staff for that. And we'll miss you. We really will.
Councils and governors, and it's a whole community thing.
Right.
That's what I just hope keeps.
But just change, it's hard to change sometimes the attitudes of a community, so we have other things in mind to do, but anyway, thank you. Okay, Mr. Slagle.
Nothing at this time?
Okay.
Mr. Weber.
Larry.
Did I miss, Mr. Weber, I keep forgetting you on that RNTV. Yeah.
That's all right, I'm easy to forget. I really don't have anything else to chat. Thanks again for everything you've done over the years, and appreciate it. And through the high school, all the high school groups, that's involving more recent, I guess. But congratulations to all of those folks, and all that.
Okay, thank you. Motion to...
Move adjourn.
Second.
Oh, you didn't get the public.
Oh, I missed the public. Okay. Sorry about that. Got interested in who's going down the slide. Okay. All right, at this time, it's public comment. We have 3 minutes. If you want to come forward and say anything, you must state your name and where you live. And is there anybody here who wants to speak? I assume you're a reporter from the...
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, man.
Okay. Behind you back there, Tim.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought Matt wanted to say something.
All right.
Move adjourn.
Second.
Briggs,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Wake up
Hey.
over there, Vicki.
did you vote?